Without a proper content strategy, you're essentially shooting in the dark, wasting time and budget. In this video, I'm going to show you a bulletproof plan that will enable you to create content that will resonate, convert, and help you scale, with a little something at the end to give you that edge over your competition. At Jello, we've developed content strategies and written content for companies like Solana, ICP, and Polkadot. So stay until the end to get to grips with what it takes to create content strategies that actually drives results. Before we jump into understanding what encompasses a holistic content strategy, we should first understand what a strategy is. Now, in this space, in the Web3 space, we've seen a lot of different quote unquote strategies. And realistically, not realistically, but the reality is that a lot of these strategies that people are implementing are just playbooks and tactics. Now, a playbook is extremely important. It's always good to have your playbooks and know a set workflow or framework to execute marketing strategies, but they are just that. They are frameworks of execution. They are series of tasks that are fundamentally just themselves, if that makes sense. First, we need to distinguish the difference between tactics and strategies. Strategies are context-aware plans. Every brand should have their own different strategy based on the nuances of their brand, their audience, their community, etc., so on and so forth. If you don't have that, or you're not utilizing the context which within you're residing, you're not creating a strategy. You're just copy and pasting someone else's strategy, which to you is just a method of execution. You're not coming up with anything that is really suited to you. So, what do we really mean by this? Well, we can look at an example here. Let's take the example of a team that's developing Ethereum developer tools or developer tools for anyone building using Solidity or something like that. So a couple of good examples of strategies would be we will conduct guerrilla and content marketing on Reddit and the ETH research forum, as the core dev audience we are reaching reside there. As you can see, we've outlined the methods of execution, but we've also put in wider context, so the channels as to why we're going there, and then obviously why we're going there is because the dev community is there. Similarly, for the KOL side, we will use micro KOLs who are builder focused or building Ethereum apps to amplify content to the right audience. Again, we're not just saying we will use influencers, we are providing the context and therefore a strategy and why we're doing it, and kind of giving that nuanced approach that is specific to our brand. So now that we understand that strategy is essentially your mediums of execution wrapped in context, we can go ahead and start finding what that context is. And this is where it comes to the fundamentals of a content strategy. So usually we bucket these things in. There's 8 things you need to basically acquire to start creating a cohesive and well put together content strategy. They include the goals and the milestones or the vision, the product, the brand, market context, roadmap and timelines, competitors, audience, and other differentiating factors. Now, these are in no particular order here, but the top 2 most important things will always be product and audience. If you don't understand your audience, there's no way you're going to create messaging that will resonate with them. And if you don't understand your product, there's no way you can map your product to that messaging and to the problems that your audience faces or what they care about. So once you've kind of collected this information, you can take the next foundational step, which is coming up with that minimum viable position for your brand, or coming up with the full brand positioning. The brand position is basically how you want the brand to look like from the market. It's the ideal stance you want to take, and it's the basis for your narrative. So having these things and having these fundamental elements, already loaded up, is really going to provide you a better standing for coming up with your brand position, and then further curating that narrative and carving it out into the market. So once we have these foundational items complete, we can start with step 1, which is developing the brand narrative or the brand story. Now, at Jello, we use this framework for outlining the brand story, and it looks a little something like this. You have you have the story's hero, you have the setting, you have the enemy or the common enemy or the villain, you have the guide, and you have the twist. And what does that look like in practice? Well, the hero of the story is not you. It's never the brand. It's always the audience. Everyone out there in the world is the hero of their own story, and your job as a brand is to connect with them. And the easiest way to do that is to make them the hero of your story as well. You need to make them feel that you're not, you're doing them a favor in a sense. You shouldn't have to be calling for them to come to you and listen to your story. You should be telling them that we are a big part of your journey and we should be a part of your story. It makes it about them. Secondly, we have the setting. So this is the context of the market that you sit in, the market sentiments. This could include competitors. This could include a lot of other things. But this is basically where the story takes place. Obviously, without context, we're kind of a bit lost. Our messaging could be off. We're not really creating things that resonate. We need to understand the context of which our story is taking place. Thirdly, it's the common enemy or the villain. Now, this is not your competitor. This is the problems that your audience faces. Your job is to help them overcome those problems. And this brings us on to point number 4, which is the guide. Again, you're the guidance that they need to overcome their problems, which is why it fits so well, because you are essentially showing them that we're part of your story. We're helping you overcome your problems, versus if you were to go the route which a lot of people take, which is, the hero is you and the enemy is the brand. Sorry, the enemy is the competitors. It makes it all about you, and the audience doesn't really care. They care about them. And then finally, the twist. So obviously, your guidance has to be somewhat unique for them to want to listen to you. So what is your UVP and differentiating factor? How can we include that in your brand narrative? So these 5 things are the framework. These are the core components of a brand story and a brand narrative. And with the context, we can kind of put these together and create variations and kind of go from there and decide, okay, this is the narrative that we want to run with. But this is a very good framework for doing so. Now, if you're having trouble outlining the brand narrative, feel free to check out the description. There is a guide to building your brand narrative alongside a guide to audience mapping and product mapping, which will help you basically outline 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 out of the 8 things that we outlined in the fundamentals. All those are free. All those are for you to use and to support you in creating your content strategy. Now, once we have your brand narrative, we need to create content pillars, which is step 2. Now, if you look online and type in content pillars, you'll get stuff like education, inspiration, action, blah, blah, blah. These are, in my opinion, quite fluffy and don't really help. We should be thinking of pillars as tangible talking points and actionable points that we can go and draw from to create content. Having a pillar that says education doesn't really help. I think we can obviously include that in part of our funnel mapping, which we'll do in a second. But essentially, your core pillars should be the core talking points of the product. And then stuff like education and inspiration and action can be aligned with the marketing funnel, as I just mentioned, which we'll get onto in a second. So obviously, from the information that we've gathered, we can map out some key pillars that will resonate with different audience segments. You should map out all your product features, your goal, your market context, the problems, the unique parts of your brand, community, milestones, etc., etc. These things will act as the core talking points for your brand, and will help you carve out your narrative and your messaging through content. Now, thirdly, the final piece of the puzzle is the funnel. Now, in a general sense, content comes in at the top of the marketing funnel. It's a means of driving awareness and nurturing users, and is very rarely used as a straight conversion mechanism. You don't buy a product from a piece of content. You buy a product from a product page, and you don't, take a service from someone directly from a piece of content. You talk with them, and then you sign a deal. Now, even though that's the case, we can still break down the content side of the funnel into its own mini funnel, which looks a bit like this. We have top of funnel content, which is for driving awareness and demand generation. Middle of funnel content, which is interest and nurturing, and then bottom of funnel, which is conversion and loyalty. And you can split these up into 2 depending on the project and what your kind of goals are. Now, this is an example that we use from one of our clients. We've done some competitor analysis on their competitors' versions of these types of content and outlined for them different types of content that will be used in each part of the funnel. So in top of funnel, we'll have educational articles, social media engagement, educational series, infographics and videos, market overviews, and kind of relaying the context of which the brand sits. Interest and nurturing would be detailed product pages, case studies and testimonials, partnership announcements, guides, etc. And finally, conversion and loyalty, which is onboarding guides, customer support, FAQs, loyalty programs, etc., etc. So those are the three main components that you need to kind of create content. But I can imagine this is still pretty up in the air, right? We've got all these different concepts and things, but we don't really know how to put them together and piece the puzzle together. We've got all the pieces, but what does it look like when it's put together? Well, luckily for you, I've got something for you that will help you do that. This is a content strategy map, which we do for pretty much all of our clients. This is one that we've done for a neobanking client in the crypto space, omitting some intimate details throughout for obvious reasons. But we can go through this, and I can show you kind of how we lay this thing out. So it all starts with the fundamental items. We have the goals and the introduction, so a couple goals here for content. We have the product summary, we have team, timelines, other marketing strategies, the vision and the strategy of the brand, some more brand items, brand values, brand persona, and tones for social media content and other content, taglines and positioning. All these things are important to have ready and available for anyone to create content over them. Again, this is what we're wrapping the context in. This is like the clothing for our content. Secondly, we move on to the audience. So again, we've segmented the audience up, demographics, motivations and desires, pain points, behaviors, and how they behave online is really important to understand, so we can create content that will resonate with them and fit into their kind of workflow or lifestyle, so we're not kind of making them move elsewhere when creating content. Thirdly is content pillars. So again, we've mapped them out as such: community, user desires, product, uniqueness of the team, market problems and competitive landscape, and announcements and milestones. And again, within each one, some details on the products, and all the details that kind of the creator would need to go ahead and create content. We've put this little thing on the side here, which is really important. Current key focuses. When things are moving fast, it's always important to have the current focuses for content in a readily viewable area, so you can keep on track and align with your goals. That's the most important thing, right? Showing the content is aligning with the goals that we've set. Fourth, we've got the overarching themes and narratives. So the current market trends, and then the current brand trends that we're trying to pull out. So again, these are like kind of putting our narratives together. And this is like the core messaging that we'll use for taking this product to market and trying to acquire mindshare on social media. And finally, we have the funnel. So as we just saw, this is the content funnel that we use, that we are aligning with, showcasing that all our content should be adhering to this funnel, aligned with the goals, and ensuring that we are taking users from just being interested in coming across the brand, nurturing them, and then obviously converting them into the community or into a paying customer of some kind at the end of the day. So that's pretty much everything mapped out right there. All the pieces of the puzzle have been put together and in a really easy to view format that allows any creator to come in and create concepts and ideate on campaigns, because everything is there in the open for you to kind of scan over and create content on. So hopefully that was useful. If you're building in the Web3 space and looking to drive user acquisition, attract developers, or truly stand out, please get in touch with us and check out the other resources that are in the description to help you on your journey.